have to pay the cost, 'cause many have died in the dark side of the forest, forest, forest. It's hard to not keep singing that. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm delighted to come your way to showcase something, I guess showcase / review something that I never thought in a million years would ever happen. Basically, I found myself, it's winter time in Minnesota, there's nothing to do, I'm laying in bed on a tablet looking at eBay, and I'm like, let's type The Forest 1982 or whatever the hell, 1983, I can't remember what year. Let's type The Forest, the movie, the horror movie that I love, I hold in really high regard, by Don Jones from the early 80s, and see what comes up. All kinds of stuff came up, VHSs, DVDs, Blu-rays, but then something that I had no idea existed popped up. Someone had listed a brand new version of this with shrink wrap and everything, and I'm like, what? Stopping on by to showcase / review The Forest. What do they say? Original motion picture soundtrack composed by Dick That Guy and Alan Oldfield. I saw a new vinyl record on eBay of The Forest soundtrack, and this movie came into my life when I was 16 years old. I found a previously viewed VHS in 1993 of this, and I've just loved this movie ever since. And honestly, I always knew I liked the music, but until I got heard the soundtrack and then I got this and stuff, I didn't realize exactly how much I actually love the music in this movie. I knew I liked it, but when you can hear it on its own and in stereo and stuff, you realize that how much more, how much you actually like the music. Turns out this has been out for 3 years and I knew absolutely nothing about it. This came out in 2023 for, I guess, the 40th anniversary of the film. I guess the movie must have come out in 82 or 83, obviously. This has existed for 2.5 or 3 years at this point. It's just a shame I never knew about it. And just coincidentally, as you may know if you watch some of my most recent videos, you'll know that like last fall in 2025 in the fall, I got the Airport vinyl record, and I kind of got back into doing some vinyl. I bought some new vinyls, I bought some old vinyls. So just by chance, I kind of got back into vinyl before I discovered this, and then initially I discovered the, once I found out that this existed, then I searched the Forest soundtrack, and I was able to find, I can't remember what the name of that site is, where, artists and musicians can post their albums and sell them themselves on this. Is it Bandcamp? It might very well be Bandcamp, but I was able to listen to, you're able to hear all of the, basically for free stream all of the soundtrack to The Forest on there, and then I subsequently realized it's on Apple Music, and I'm like, you know what, I want to support the vinyl release of The Forest, because I don't imagine a lot of other people are necessarily buying it. And this is, I should also say that this record was put out by Mystic Vault, mysticvaultmedia.com, so I went straight there. And I think this was normally priced like $30. Luckily, when I found it, it was on sale for like $21 plus $5 shipping. So all said and done, and it's such a small company that I don't think I even had to pay tax. So all said and done, this was just $26 shipped. Although, and I'm thinking of probably buying the digital download from, I'm assuming it's this Dick H is the one who is, I would imagine, selling it on there, so maybe he'll get most of the proceeds. I'm assuming Alan Oldfield is no longer with us, but yeah, if you haven't seen the Forest, the music for being a really, really low budget movie in the early 80s, the music for The Forest is really pretty cool. And there's not only the film score, but there's like 4 freaking, great like songs, that are also, I would imagine, written and recorded exclusively for the movie. So you've got, the majority of the score. I don't think you get every single cue necessarily. Talk about that a little bit later on. And then you've got all 4 songs, which is just in their entirety, which is just a treat to behold. Taking a closer look at the front cover, basically recreating the original theatrical poster more or less. I don't know why. I don't know if I would have chosen pink for the font and the type here. We've got The Forest in the original Forest font, but in this case it's pink, not sure why. original motion picture soundtrack composed by Dick H. and Alan Oldfield. I think the tree, you know, the scary eyes through the tree branches is like original, but I think the hand holding the knife and the tent are new additions that were, you know, illustrated by, it says on the back here, cover and gatefold paintings by Hayden Hall. As I said, I think the eyes and the branches are the same. If not, he did a hell of a job recreating it. But I know the knife and the tent is different, because in the original theatrical poster, the knife, you know, the fist and the knife is different. Plus there's a man and a woman with backpacks walking like away from their, you know, the tent and the campfire or whatever the hell's on the original theatrical poster. So not sure why they couldn't just use that, but you know, it's recreated here more or less faithfully. So I mean, I never ever thought I'd see like a vinyl record with, you know, kind of a different reworked version of the Forest theatrical poster. On the bottom corner there you can see Mystic Vault logo. I'm not crazy about the logo, how it's so non-readable or not that easy to read. You know, like if you had a logo, you think you'd want to make it instantly readable, but I guess Mystic Vault has other ideas. Taking a look at the back, we've got Mystic Vault like logo up top corner. Now the Forest, see how this looks good in yellow? The Forest, you've got a different logo and you've got that information there. I'm not gonna probably show you this stuff close enough to read. It's basically an interview by, you know, Mystic Vault interviewing Dick H. So you might be able to see, you know, pictures of this online where you can read that stuff, but I'm not gonna do that in this particular showcasing slash review. But of course you've got film, you know, screen grabs, you know, film stills from the movie just taken right out of the 35mm film. All really wonderful. I mean, not that there's a single frame from the movie that isn't just amazing in my opinion, being a huge fan of the Forest. There in kind of pixelated black and white dots, you can see the scary killer there on the bottom left side of the artwork. On the bottom there you can see side A and all the tracks, and side B and all the tracks. One thing I will note, which I think is a screw up by, what's the name of this outfit? Mystic Vault Media, or Mystic Vault Records in this case. If you compare the track listing on this to the track listing on the digitally downloadable album from Bandcamp, might be the website, or the Apple Music digital album, you'll know that one of the tracks is like in the wrong place on the record, which is a kind of a bummer. But as I'll talk about when I get further into some of the latter tracks on this, with basically the Forest Suite 1, 2, and 3, there's cues that aren't in order on those as well. So I guess at the end of the day, it's not the biggest deal in the world. If you compare the Apple Music track list to the back of the vinyl, side A and side B track listing, I sat here for minutes trying to work it out, but I can't decide what is switched around what. It might just be the limitations of my brain at nearly 50, but as you can see, like, the Ghost Mother Appears seems to be out of place on the vinyl. On the digital version, it's like Dark Side of the Forest, it's the Forest Reprise, and then Dark Side of the Forest, and Night at the Campfire, slash the Ghost, whatever it is, the Ghost, Ghost Kids Appear. Then the Ghost Mother Appears, Nowhere to Go, the Killer Stalks the Girls, Sharon Escapes, Terror in the Forest. That's from the digital versions, whether it be the digital download from Bandcamp or the Apple Music versions. So on the vinyl version, it's Dark Side of the Forest, and Dark Side of the Forest, and then Ghost Mother Appears, Nowhere to Go, the Killer Stalks the Girls, and then on side B you've got Night Campfire, the Kids Appear. Well, Night Campfire, the Kids Appear should be before the Mother Appears, and Ghost Mother Appears is the third from the last track on side A. So yeah, they misplaced that on the vinyl, so I consider that to be kind of a fail on the part of Mystic Vault Records in this case. Disappointed by that. I ordered it, and then I was looking at the track listing after I ordered. I mean, I didn't know that until after I ordered it, but I still would have ordered it anyway, because as I said, talking about the, as you can see on side B here, some of the last tracks, which is the Forest Suite 1, the Forest Suite 2, and the Forest Suite 3, there's cues from those tracks that go before even the goofy jazz fight. You'll know that there's a cue that happens right after in the flashback. The guy kills his cheating wife, and it's like nah, 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 and it's just the weirdest music playing as the killer grabs a knife and goes out to confront and kill the guy she cheated with, who's supposed to be working on the outdoor refrigerator or whatever bullshit happens. I love this movie so much. But you know, some of the cues that appear in either the Forest Suite, you know, 1 or 2 or 3, actually goes before the track Jazz Fight, and so you know, some of the stuff is all kind of mishmashed around. What I think happened with the Forest Suite 1 and the Forest Suite 2 and the Forest Suite 3 is like the people who are making the record, maybe they were too lazy to research. They didn't know the movie well enough. They didn't know where the hell all the cues that are featured in these tracks go, so they kind of just clumped them all together at the end in these 3 different tracks. They should have had me do the record, because you know, I wouldn't have been so lazy like that. You know, the majority of the record with all the cues named and stuff is correct and stuff, and then at the end they're like, yeah, I don't know where these cues go, we'll just clump them all together and call them Forest Suite 1, 2, and 3. But it's kind of funny how towards the end of the album, how they just get lazy in that regard. I'm not the biggest fan of gatefolds, like especially if you only have 1 record. If you got 2 records, it makes more sense, but this release does actually, if you're interested, come as a gatefold release in another painting done, recent, probably new painting by the one guy who did the front cover. Did a rendition of the ghost children here, as you can see, and the famous quote from the poster is featured there as well, "Daddy's gone a-hunting." But incidentally, I think the likenesses of the 2 ghost children are captured really well, and you know, if you're going to have a gatefold for this release, like, that's a interesting choice, I guess, for the gatefold. I mean, it's, you know, I'm not complaining, I'm just not the biggest gatefold guy for a single record release, but this record, you know, vinyl record release did go the extra mile, as we can see, and does have a gatefold. Taking a look at the actual vinyl record itself, if you were going to do a forest colored vinyl, what the hell color do you think you would pick? Probably green. They chose green, in this case green with white specks. I don't know if I would have personally done the white specks, makes no sense to me, but the majority of it is green. I probably would have just done solid green. If I were going to have another, you know, color on there, I'd probably be blood red specks once again. So the color of the vinyl record is really cool. Once again, the label we've got with, I don't know, the Forest logo, I don't know why they chose pink, but they chose pink. I don't think I noticed until right now that the O is for the, you know, the whole of the, in the center of the vinyl record. I didn't realize that until just now. The layout for the labels, as you'll see with side B, is even funner. The layout for the side A and side B labels are actually pretty good, and the scary eyes in the forest there, and you know, having the O be the punch hole thing is a really creative choice. But you know, not keen on why is it pink? You know, why not red? You can just go darker, make it red, blood red. But as you can see on side A, you've got all the track listings and the copyright track listings for both sides, because as you'll see on side B, what they do, and that's why they can't have track listing for side B on side B, as you'll soon see why. As we can see, the label for side 2 is simply a still image from the movie of that one victim hung upside down after having his throat slit there. So kind of a cool choice, honestly. And what, you know, when you're playing the record, obviously the head rotates from, you know, upside down to right side up and sideways and all this and that. The image, of course, is in the movie appears as upside down, as the character is hanging upside down. But an interesting choice, and they kind of put the punch hole a little bit where his mouth is a little bit there. It would have kind of been fun to have the punch hole where one of his nostrils was, but they chose to do it the way they chose to do it. Don't want to end this review without talking about the actual sound quality of the audio on the record. I found the record to be relatively, you know, being a brand new record, relatively pop-free, played through absolutely fine, no skips and very little pops and stuff, and that being obviously a new vinyl record. And you can't necessarily credit probably the remastering to the Mystic, whatever the hell the name is of the record label. It's probably I don't know who the hell actually did the mastering and all this and that, which of course I heard for the very first time on Bandcamp and Apple Music and all this kind of stuff. But I will say the mastering of the music on the album and how it's presented on this vinyl record release is just top notch, really wonderfully done. Everything is stereo. Unlike, you know, if you listen to the soundtrack of The Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984, all the songs, I think, the songs that were recorded or featured in the movie that are featured on that soundtrack, I think, are all in mono. Well, the four classic songs that are featured on this soundtrack album, be it digital or in this case vinyl, are actually all stereo, as is the rest of the music on the album. So it sounds absolutely top rate, top notch, and just absolutely fantastic. And it's such a treat to own, you know, on vinyl, you know, the frickin' soundtrack to The Forest. And as I said, I'll probably buy the digital download from the Bandcamp website or whatever. But yeah, my only thing I would say, being a huge fan of this movie and knowing the music very, very well, is it seems to me there's at least one cue that may not, I don't quote me 100%, but there's one cue that may not be featured here. The one where the two guys are caught in the rainstorm and they go into the cave and they go around the corner and they see the setup with the candelabra and the chair and the fire and stuff. There's the famous, and the bells thing happened numerous times throughout the course of the soundtrack, like the, you know, when they kind of go around the corner and see that setup of the crazy killer living in the woods, his living room, if you will, in the cave, and some of the music that transpires after that. I don't necessarily think that's featured on the album, be it digital or in this case vinyl, unfortunately. But I think the majority, I mean, obviously the majority of the music that's featured in the movie is here. Another thing I do want to mention, the very last part where you know, where the killer is killed, and that bit of music where it's, and in the movie, you know, if you've seen the movie, how it's goofy slow motion, where it's like a blank frame of the movie, black frame of the movie, really half-assed kind of slow motion, where the wife is coming at the killer with his own knife and proceeds to, well, if you haven't seen the movie, I won't say what happens, but yeah, where the wife gets revenge at the end of the movie, that there's some music in the original, if you watch the movie, that there's like flashbacks of where the killer sees his wife when it's, you know, not his wife, and, you know, so whenever you see, you know, it cuts back and forth between the woman coming at him in real life and his wife that he thinks he's seeing or whatever. Every time you see the woman, or his wife, I mean, in his flashback, it's like this meow kind of bit of electronic, you know, sting or whatever. Meow, like those are like, if they're there at all, you can't even barely hear them. So for some reason, those in the remastering or the mastering of this, you know, the music for the 40th anniversary digital download, or in this case vinyl record release, for some reason, like that, either that bit of, you know, audio was lost in time, or, you know, tuned down way too much in the background and no one noticed it, kind of thing. But those are some of the things, being a huge fan of this movie and knowing the music so well, that I will point out that so basically three kind of screw-ups that I've noticed with this album, and with the vinyl release, not the digital. The digital's like all, as I said, the tracks are all in the right order, except for that mishmash of, you know, the Forest Suite 1, 2, and 3, where they just put a mishmash of stuff that presumably they didn't know where the hell it went, so we'll put it all in these three tracks at the end. But where the vinyl record fails, as I said, compared to the digital versions, is just, you know, mixing those tracks up at the end of side 1 and the beginning of side, you know, 2, or side A and B or whatever, is a little bit of a bummer. The possible not inclusion of that one cue where the two husbands find the killer's living room, and then the that one bit of, you know, whatever electronic tonalities or sound being, you know, either it's there so minimally or it's not there at all, of like the, I can't do it with my voice because my voice isn't a digital synthesizer, but, you know, it's like when we see his, you know, his vision of his wife coming at him or whatever. But those are small little nitpicks, you know, compared to the overall grand frickin' package that is this, you know, 40th anniversary vinyl release of this soundtrack. I mean, who would have ever imagined that this would have ever been a thing. And I felt kind of bad going to the website, like seeing the the quote unquote original normal price being 30 and then on sale for 21. It's like, god dang it. And I think this is kind of a company that hasn't existed for very long. They don't have much on their website. There's also a vinyl record release of the soundtrack, which I contemplated getting, of Bloody Moon, the was it Jess Franco film that I first saw in my early 20s and stuff, when me and Keith saw it for the first time, and I've subsequently got on DVD and things. And Bloody Moon, I think that's the name of it. That's the Spanish Jess Franco, I want to say, horror movie. They got a vinyl, I think it's a double vinyl record release of that. I thought about getting that, and I'm like, I won't get that. But it makes me feel bad that I think that, I can't remember if that record, that might have been marked down too. It makes me feel bad, like, God, maybe they're on clearance because no one's buying them. It'd be interesting to know how many, like, of the Forest, they've pressed or are going to press and stuff. This is such an obscure title that it's like, that's why I was so shocked. Oh, that's another thing I gotta say in closing. I want to talk about the little sticker on I'll finish that sentence. I was so shocked that anyone would put the soundtrack to The Forest on a vinyl record. I had to support it, and I was so delighted to support it for $21 plus $5 shipping. But what I was going to say is, I almost forgot to mention, when it's sealed, and I got a picture of it here before I opened it, and I saw this on eBay as well. I was on eBay as well. When it's sealed, they got this kind of like a car freshener little pine tree thing that is like the what do they call it? A hype sticker, kind of, that says. It says, score to the 1982 supernatural backwoods slasher The Forest by Dick H. and Alan Oldfield! Sourced from the original master tapes, pressed on 80-gram evergreen splatter vinyl by Mystic Records there. The Forest all in pink there, except for the title The Forest and the spiel. But I thought it was a really cool little detail to have, like, a car air freshener to give that air freshener hype sticker here to give that information. Really cool touch, and honestly it makes you want to have a sealed one to not open. I thought about, when I bought this, because it was 21 bucks a piece, that maybe I'd buy one to keep sealed and buy one to open, but I just bought one to open. And yeah, it'd be kind of cool to have one to keep sealed, but I opened mine because I wanted to hear it. So if you're a fan of this movie and the music, and just like me, you didn't know that this existed, and you want to support the physical vinyl record release of the soundtrack, even if you don't have a turntable, just to support it, be sure to head over to mysticvaultmedia.com and order yourself up one or two or three or whatever. Like I say, the fact that they're discounted just makes me worry that they pressed all this stuff and no one's buying it, so they had to put it on clearance and stuff. So I'm glad it was on sale when I got it. Chances are it'll still be on sale when you go there as well, because it's probably not on sale, it's probably on clearance. But support the company for doing this really, really cool vinyl record. A little bit of a bummer they screwed up some of the order of the track listing, but life goes on. If you want to hear it in order, you can listen to the digital version, I guess, at the end of the day. But yeah, I guess that pretty much does it for this showcasing / review of the Forest freaking original soundtrack on vinyl records by Mystic Vault Records. Hope you guys enjoyed this showcasing. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next video. So if you're a fan of this movie and you didn't know this vinyl release, maybe go on over to Mystic Records, whatever the hell it is. That's really informative. Mystic Vault Media. So if you're a fan of this movie and the music like I am, and you didn't know that this record exists, and you want to support the vinyl record physical release of the soundtrack, maybe head over to Mystic